Good afternoon, folks. Julie and I are back. This is our sixth meeting. 6 months we've been trying to bring you information about the basing of the F-35. We've covered what happened, how it happened. We covered who was mainly responsible for that, and that was Senator Patrick Leahy. We talked a great deal about the Vermont Air National Guards, the senior leaders, their role in making the basing happen. And then we did a two-part, I want to say series, but a two-part show about the nuclear component of the F-35 and how we tried to make the public aware of that and how that got sabotaged by Senator Sanders. So try to tell you what happened, how it happened, and we're getting to the hidden whys of why, in particular, why did our senior decision makers decide to agree with the Air Force and base the F-35. So that's what we have covered over the last 6 months. Today we're going to speak in more detail about the role that Senator Sanders, then Representative Welch, now Senator Welch, and our new Congresswoman Ballard have played in the basing initially. Obviously, Congresswoman Ballard wasn't here, but how she has, and how the men have played a role, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
I'm going to start with Senator Sanders. So Senator Sanders has consistently supported the basing of the F-35. I have numerous letters that he has written to me, to other constituents, supporting the F-35 basing. Even when we learned that it was going to carry nuclear weapons, and it is, he was still adamantly in support of the F-35. This actually comes as one of the greatest surprises when we run into people and they always ask, why?
Yeah, what about Bernie?
That's right. What about Bernie? In fact, for a long time, most people just assumed Senator Sanders would oppose the F-35 because that would be consistent with what he has said in pretty much in his entire career about the military, defense spending, wars, etc. So people assumed that he was opposed to it, if only, because we're going to talk a little bit today about the powers that our Congressional Delegation has. And they are the ones that have the power and the authority to work with the Air Force. I could even use the phrase direct the Air Force to replace the F-35 with a mission that is compatible with the people who live around the airport. And so Senator Sanders not only did not listen to his constituents, he did just the opposite and was lockstep with Lockheed Martin, the United States Air Force, the Vermont Air National Guard, and all of the military-industrial congressional complex in supporting the basing of the F-35 here and ignoring the wishes of his constituents. And we, in a previous show, if you want to go back and look at it, we gave you the numbers. Overwhelmingly, in the high 80% people were against the basing of the F-35. So he certainly was not reacting or listening to his constituents. Don't know if he was listening and talking to Lockheed Martin. I wouldn't think so, but we don't know. Because the other, and maybe more, dare I say, disgraceful behavior was his refusal to engage personally with his constituents. I don't know how many times, Julie, we have invited Senator Sanders, at the time Senator Leahy and Representative Welch. I've lost count of how many times they have been invited. Never once.
No, for a while we were going to Leahy's office every single day and still couldn't
get
a single word with the man.
Yeah, I think we did that for 90 days or something. So not only did Senator Leahy ignore us, but so did Senator Sanders and now Senator Welch. So The reason that we are focused so much on our congressional delegation is because of the powers that senators and representatives have over the military. It is reassuring when we hear our local elected officials, like our mayors and our city councilors, and to speak out against the F-35 and speak out in support of what the people have asked. That is wonderful, but they do not have the authority or the sway with the United States Air Force. But our senators and our representatives, they do. And that's why we have so heavily focused on them. And that is why the city of Burlington, the city of South Burlington, and the city of Winooski all passed resolutions. Oh my gosh, it's coming up in a year. In August and September time frame of last year, asking the congressional delegations to engage with the Air Force to get a replacement mission. And we can read you the text of, the ask, but that's why we have done that.
Right.
So I think maybe Julie can tell you, give you some examples of why we believe that is the best course of action to get rid of the F-35. So.
Sure. Not only is it in our Constitution that the congressional delegation has this ability and power to shape what the military does, but it's also, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a moment.
I was doing the same thing. Other delegations
right,
have done
other
it.
delegations have done it plenty of other times, and we will go through those in a moment. And another piece that we'll probably get to is, regardless of the Constitution, regardless of anything that's been put into these resolutions, they're also holding the purse strings, and we all know that that ultimately means that they have the power over these decisions. So I'm just going to go through. I think the resolutions were pretty much identical.
They were, yeah.
Yeah, so this one just happens to be the one from Winooski, and I'm just going to read off. It has a number of examples of times that these basing decisions like this one have been changed to other missions. Other air guards have switched military missions. For example, the Great Falls Air Base in Montana changed from an F-15 fighter aircraft to C-130 transport aircraft. The 120th Airlift Wing prepares to deploy, was the article that came from. The second one, in an airbase in New Mexico changed from an F-16 fighter unit to a Special Operations Training Unit in 2013. An Air Guard National Base in Michigan changed from the C-21 aircraft to flying drone missions in 2013. A North Dakota National Air Guard base changed from C-21A aircraft to an intelligence mission in 2013. An air base in Ohio changed from a C-130 aircraft to a cyberspace mission in 2023.
Now, these are just a few examples.
Right.
These were prepared as part of the information that was in the resolutions passed by the three cities. It was to show that there have been mission changes in other locations. By the way, it happens all the time. But these were the ones that were researched at the time in the preparation for of the resolution. So that's not the whole thing. That's just a few examples, and to give the counselors information about this is not a pipe dream. This is not it can't be done, because that's what we were told. Can't be done. You can't get rid of the F-35s. When in fact, yes, other places have gotten rid of their flying missions, right? So that's excuse me. That is why that was incorporated in the resolution, just to give examples. But it's not comprehensive and not exhaustive.
Right.
So.
Right. And so then we get into the very important whereas clause of this. Whereas congressional delegations have the authority and ability to request the Air Force replace existing missions and aircraft with new missions and aircraft. And whereas some congressional delegations have successfully exercised this authority. So this has happened before on a number of occasions. I'll just read off a few. the Minnesota State's Congressional Delegation was involved in a successful effort to get the C-130 transport mission. Ohio's Congressional Delegation succeeded in getting the Air Force to transition to a new cyber mission. Governor Siorslak, I should know how to say that in Polish, but maybe not. And Nevada's entire congressional delegation were successful in getting the Air Force to assign them a new regional aeromedical evacuation squadron to respond to emergencies and disasters. Alaskan Senator Mark Begich was successful in his request to the Air Force to abandon its plans to move F-16s from Eielson Air Force Base to Joint Base Elmendorf. And so those are just a few examples that we found of, again, congressional delegations, governors, people who actually have the power and constitutionally have the power to change these missions doing so. And I think we just wanted to note, I know a lot of the times we're a little bit combative about how we approach the congressional delegation. It's been a long 12 years of trying to get them to listen to us, but I did want to say that these examples give me a lot of hope, because they're examples of what I think is true leadership, in that people are willing to change their mind when they're presented with new information. They're willing to admit that mistakes were made. They're willing to fight for their people when their people are being impacted by something like the F-35. So just, we'll get to this later, but this is just an open invitation to the congressional delegation. If you want to change your mind, you have our support, and we'll have your back.
I was a senior leader in the Air Force for many years, and the hallmark of a good leader, they sent me to leadership school, right? They're not born leaders. I think you're trained and experienced. But one of the hallmarks of a good leader is being willing to admit when you've made a mistake. Some of our gravest problems come when people are intransigent and want to, for some reason, have their constituents believe that they are perfect and they never make mistakes, which is so regretful. But it's also very poor leadership, incredibly poor leadership, because now you're making decisions and taking actions based on a falsehood or a mistake. And that's definitely what happened here with the F-35. So that might be a good segue into what a friend of mine and I tried to do for over 2 years. And this was relatively recent. It was that was about maybe 3 years ago. When Senator Leahy retired, and the congressional delegation composition changed, and Representative Ballant was elected, we realized, because we knew the oversized role that Senator Leahy played in basing it, and once again, because the congressional delegation would never talk to us, we made up or conjectured why in the world would Sanders and Welsh go along with this, in particular Senator Sanders. And we thought maybe it was out of a sense of loyalty, perhaps, to Leahy, or, they worked together for years. So we thought, well, when Senator Leahy retired, then we had hope that Senator Sanders and now Senator Welsh would have the courage to revisit this. And so for 2 years, a friend of mine and I, just the two of us, engaged with the staff of each of the delegates. I got to tell you, it was refreshing to hear that the staff actually replied to us, because for 10 years or so, we'd gotten nothing, right? So we started engaging with the staff, and we tried to bring them up to speed on the F-35, because some of them were here during the basing, some were not. Most were not up on the details as we were. So we had a bit of educating to do. And we were asking them, our ask was, All we want right now is to have a face-to-face meeting, which we had never been able to do at that point for over 10 years. That was our ask. I just got to tell you, 3 years later, we still have not met with them. Disgraceful, except for our new Congresswoman, and I'm going to talk about Representative Ballin in a second. But neither Sanders nor Welsh have ever agreed to meet, to speak, even on the phone with us. So we were engaged with the staff, hoping, but I used to deal in military with staffers, as we'd call them for the delegation, and you never knew if the staffers conveyed the information accurately. Right? And when we're talking about the F-35, there's a lot of technical stuff. If you watch these shows, you know, I mean, Karn 3 and all, you know, you go down the rabbit hole of those things and you don't come out alive. But so we were never certain that the staff individuals understood it. So we sent them all kinds of information. Some of the stuff that Julie and I have been talking about with you, and showed them exactly what Leahy said, exactly what Leahy did, what the Air Force said, what the Air National Guard, Vermont Air National Guard did, all of that. Some of the staffers were, and I don't think they were playing with us, genuinely surprised. A few of them said, I never knew that. I never knew that. And a few said, could you please send us the documents? And we did. We sent it all. Okay. So we did that for 2 years. And we were not able to meet with them. And then one of the counselors, Councilor Bergman in Burlington, it came up during the lease extension, said he was going to introduce a resolution. And when Gene did that, all the full disclosure, I worked with him on the resolution. I don't think it's any secret. Because I had all of the references and the documentation, and of course I was in the Air Force for 30 years. So we worked on that, and that was the therefore. In fact, maybe, Julie, might be appropriate, is the therefore is it should be one of the last paragraphs. Sure. This is what Winooski, South Burlington, and Burlington asked in their resolution.
Yes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Winooski, Burlington, and South Burlington City Council requests the Vermont Congressional Delegation contact the Secretary of the United States Air Force, requesting that the Air Force replace the current F-35 mission with a mission that causes no harmful noise to people living around the airport, no substantive
easy for you to say
adverse economic impact to the airport or community, and a mission that is fully compatible with residential neighborhoods. And be it further resolved that this resolution be delivered to the Vermont Congressional Delegation and to the City Councils of Burlington and South Burlington and Winooski, and the select boards of Colchester and Williston by the Clerk Treasurer's Office within 5 working days of the adoption of the resolution.
Yeah, and that was, I think, in August or September of last year. But and South Burlington passed a similar resolution, and Burlington passed a similar resolution, and so it's coming up. We're in June now, and I think the first resolution that Burlington passed, I believe that was in August. So it's coming up in a year, and our congressional delegation has not done anything except for Congresswoman Ballin. So I'll sort of finish the story of the woman and I who are working together on this. So even after the resolution passed, and we provided them way more information than it contained in the resolution, documentation, lots of stuff, even to the point of telling them, I didn't want to overstep my bounds, but I have seen in my military career, I have seen letters coming in from senators and representatives in states asking the military for something. Mm-hmm. So I know sort of how they're written, right? So, so I drafted something. So I made it as easy as possible. Not that I wanted them to use that. It was just a template that they could use. So, so I sent that to all of them. And for a reason that I do not know, another hidden why, I got ghosted by Senator Sanders and Senator Welch and their staff. And I do not know why, but I can suspect the reason for Senator Sanders and can guess at the reason for Senator Welch.
Right, and this was after they had, a few of them had engaged with you with like great curiosity and concern.
That's right.
And then suddenly nothing.
Right. I mean, it actually surprised us because we didn't expect to have such a welcoming reception. I mean, to be, you know, well, why not be honest? Of course I'm honest. All right. By far, Congresswoman Ballant and her staff were the most welcoming, eager to listen, eager to learn, including the Congresswoman herself. Right? I'm going to save her to last because I want to end on a bright note. Right? The next one that was very, very welcoming, really inquisitive, wanted to learn even more was Senator Sanders, lead staff person. And then Senator Welch's staff were not so much. So I'm going to tell you why I believe I was ghosted by Sanders and Welch. So in the midst, well, toward the end of this, I guess the resolutions were in play but had not yet been passed. I had a conversation with one of our local elected councilors. And she told me that she had been at the airport during the unveiling of the Beta, the new electric planes that they are developing. And she was standing next to Senator Sanders. And in the midst of, I guess, their discussion, and it was a personal, not a personal discussion, but they were standing around, you know, making small talk, like, you know. And the F-35s took off. And of course, anybody that's near the runway when the F-35s take off, no, you can't, you can talk, but no one's going to hear you. So they stopped talking, obviously. And then Senator turned to her and said, I made a mistake with that one. Well, when she told me that, it sort of blew me away, one, because I'd never heard Senator Sanders say anything except compliments and support for the F-35. Right? So I wasn't sure. I got back in, I mean, after I got up off the floor, I did reach out to Senator Sanders' lead staff person and say, were you aware that Senator Sanders admitted that he made a mistake in supporting the F-35? And she said to me, he didn't say that. I said, well, I trust no one's making this up, right? But let me call this counselor again just to make sure I didn't misinterpret, all right? Or maybe she didn't misinterpret. And I did, and without a doubt, that's what he said, right? I did say, did he say, don't tell anybody I made a mistake? No, it's just casual conversation. I made a mistake on that. The press was there, and I remember watching the coverage that night or reading something, and Sanders was reported as having said at that dedication, well, we have the loudest aircraft in the world and the quietest aircraft in the world. Okay, duh. But he didn't say to the press.
Right.
And I supported the loudest aircraft in the world, even though it's killing my people. But without a doubt, he did say that to one of our counselors. I know her. I trust her. There was no reason for her to make that up. But once I shared that with their congressional delegation, did not hear another word back. So the staffer said the staffer was at the airport, but not in the group that was talking, so she could not have heard what Senator Sanders said. But I think the fact that I said that out loud to her, made it public, indicated that Senator Sanders could have made a mistake, and he realized it. And she basically said to me, Senator Sanders would never say that. I interpreted that to mean he would never admit he made a mistake. I could be wrong, don't know, but that was the ghosting from Senator Sanders. Oh my goodness, I'm looking at the clock on the wall, right? Time flies when you're having fun.
Right. Should we get to Senator Welsh?
Let's do Senator Welsh. Okay. So the reluctance that Senator Welsh had to, well, I don't know what his reluctance was to talk to us. That I can't understand. I mean, I'm pretty polite. I'm pretty respectful. I'm not at all violent. You know, pretty knowledgeable. Just wanted to talk to the man or listen to his views. But
you're also his constituent.
Well, yes, I am. By golly, yes, I am. But what we heard back from his staffers was that the reason Senator Welsh supported the F-35, and he's unflinchingly supported the F-35, lockstep with Leahy and Sanders, he never said why he supported it, but he did say why he didn't want to address it or question it. And the reason is, and we have letters from him saying this, emails, that he didn't believe it was his place to get involved in military matters.
Right.
He did not think it was his, not his right, but his place, I guess, to get involved in the environmental impact statement. Boys and girls, if you don't know, well, let me not be too sarcastic. The environmental impact statement is written for the senior leadership in the areas where the action is going to take place. They are writing it so that those with decision-making authority in the state know what the repercussions are of that action, and they weigh in on it. So, by the way, he did weigh in on it. He wrote a letter of support, so it doesn't make much sense that he didn't want to get further involved in it or believe that wasn't his place or his prerogative. But more than that, he believed he should not get involved in military matters in his state. So, Julie.
Yes, sure.
What does our Constitution say about that?
So I don't know if there's willful ignorance or just the lack of knowing, but to make it abundantly clear to anyone in the Congressional Delegation, in the Constitution, under the section titled Powers Granted to Congress, it says that Congress has the power to raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money of that use that shall be for a longer term than 2 years, to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government regulation of land and naval forces, where this was written 200 years ago, so we're going to assume that they didn't anticipate an air force, but it's pretty implied. And to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the military, and for governing such part of them as may be employed by the service of the United States, reserving to the United States respectively the appointment of officers in the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. This goes on, but the Constitution is not hard to come by online. But if you look under that section, it states pretty clearly that yes, this is the Congress. Congress has that.
And by the way,
did you
catch the word arming? That means the weapon system. That means the F-35. They have the authority to direct arms or not. And
right.
Of course, as Julie said, the power of the purse strings. Yeah.
Right. And under our current presidential administration, all of this stuff is just getting more and more. It's getting more and more important and more incumbent on our congressional delegations to, protect us from things like what's happening in LA right now, where the military is without any process, just attacking people.
Right. Yeah, there are lots of ramifications. If one of our congressional delegations believes it is not their prerogative to get involved in military matters happening in their state, we got big problems, and we may have big problems. But let's get back to the F-35.
Should we end on a hopeful note with balance?
So let us end on a hopeful note. So even before Representative Ballant was elected, when she was running, I went to some of her fundraisers. And by the way, I didn't know her. I did vote for her. But before that, I was just getting to know her. And she expressed an interest in learning about the F-35. Oh my gosh, that blew me away. I mean, she did say to me at a house party where I was first met her that she would like to learn about the F-35 because obviously she's heard the controversy and stuff. And she said if elected, she wants to really learn about it. All right. And so she got elected. And unlike the senators who for 12 years have refused to speak with me, meet with me, or anybody else for that matter, I have spoken with Representative Ballant 3 or 4 times. 3 times in person, once over the phone. She asked insightful, probing questions. She asked for information, which I sent her. Even before the resolutions were passed, she reached out to the Air Force. I mean, if you look at the information and you watch what Julie and I have done over the past 6 months, you see the people have been crying out for this for years. She heard that. I mean, she saw what we gave her that showed the overwhelming number of people don't want this thing. And so she's contacted the Air Force. And then after the resolution, she did. She contacted the Air Force about getting a replacement mission. They gave her a non-answer, which is, you know, to be expected, right? You don't get what you want from something like this by asking once. Right? I mean, if you look at the examples that were in the resolution, and there are other ones, it took a concerted effort over time by those congressional delegates to get the Air Force to change and do what they wanted. But they did it. But it took persistence. It wasn't a one-off. I asked, oh, well, my job's done. They said no, right? And in reality, a lone representative, we only have one, and a junior one at that, does not carry the weight that a senior senator like Sanders, who ran for president twice, Representative Welsh, or Senator Welsh, been in Congress for a long time, they have far more weight. And if the entire delegation was behind this, I'm going to tell you, it's going to happen. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. There are no plans to change missions. Of course there are no plans because no one's asked them to do it except Representative Ballant, right? So I am incredibly grateful to her, not only for her action, but for her willingness to listen and to engage on a matter of great importance that the 2 men have swept under the rug. So with that, that's a happy end. Sort of, we need the men. We need the senators in order to make it happen. Congresswoman Ballant cannot do it on her own.
Yeah, we need that true leadership that we talked about.
Yeah.
People willing to change their minds and stand up for people. And we would be more than happy to assist in any efforts to, if people are willing to admit they made a mistake, then we are more than happy to embrace them and help support whatever kind of campaign they want to do to change the mission. We also wanted to end with an invitation. We want to invite our congressional delegation to come speak with us. If we've said anything incorrectly, they can come correct the record. If they would like to talk with us about strategy or anything else, this is an open invitation. We'll make our schedules work. We would love to finally meet with you and find a solution to this problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll do whatever you want to do, whether it's in private, whether you want to come on a CCTV. We've already spoken with them. They would be happy to host an in-person meeting here, open, tape it and open to the public afterwards, so that it's not we said what you said or whatever, you know, he said, she said, he said, whatever. So yes, so we will send you a written invitation email. We'll probably maybe even attach a clip of this show. So you can, Senator Sanders, Senator Welsh, Representative Ballant, can hear what we said for the show. You're welcome to watch the other ones. They're fascinating, I think. lots of information, probably lots of stuff you didn't know, too. And then meet with you either in private or, I mean, ideally, it'd be great to do this on CCTV, because this is a public matter. thousands of people are affected by this weapon system, and I think they would would welcome, a discussion of the F-35 for the very first time after 12 years of asking. So,
Yes.
yeah. So with that, I guess we can bid you a fond adieu. I guess happy Pride Month, happy Father's Day, happy June.
Yeah.
And we will be back if we hear back from our congressional delegation, or if you, by popular demand, want us to come and keep talking about this. We're happy to do that too. So, any last words, Julie, in case this is our last show?
I don't think so. I just it takes a lot of courage to make these kinds of decisions, and we're just hoping that our elected officials are willing to do that for us, because this problem is only going to get worse under the current administration. So we have to act now.
Yes, yeah. This is a big problem in Vermont, but it's a bigger problem in our country. And what's happening here, what happened here with the F-35, and the way our senior elected leaders behaved, it could be really scary as we go forward with what's happening with the current administration. So we need people of courage. We need people willing to listen and admit that maybe they might have done something wrong in the past and they can correct it. So goodbye and good luck. I was just watching the Edward R. Murrow thing. So it was a pleasure spending time with Julie, spending time with you all. And I hope we have some good news, and if we do, we'll share it with you on CCTV. So.
Reach out to us in the meantime if you have any questions or want any of our many documents.
Yes, happy to provide them. Good afternoon. All right. Adios.